Well, hello, everyone, and welcome to today's episode of the Business Side of Music podcast. I am your host, Sarah Fleshner, and I am so excited to have John Mlynczak on with us today. He is the president and CEO of NAMM, and he's going to have some great insight for us. I just know it. So, welcome, John.
Thank you so much, Sarah. It's excited to be here and excited to speak to all your listeners today.
Yes, absolutely. Why don't you tell us a little bit about where you got or how you got to where you are now?
Yeah, this is like one of those situations where like I am in the dream job. Like people ask, like, is this your dream job? It absolutely is. I am like every stereotype of a music nerd, band dork, whatever you want to label it, like that kid that just loves music all the time. I mean, it's from a kid, is as soon as I could make a sound on anything. And I grew up with like, a pretty musical family, like nothing professional. My dad was always playing in a country band. We had guitars and drums around the house all the time. We had my grandma's piano that we always played like learned on that. Get to elementary school, like music class I was so lucky to have a great school system that, had music. And so it was a great program that I got to experience. And that was, really fundamental in my life. So yeah, like I feel like I never got to choose as a kid. Like when kids grow up, it's like, what do you want to do? When you get to sixth grade, you get electives, like
Yes.
what do you want to choose to do? It's like I had no choice. The choice was made for me. There was band.
Mhm.
You get to high school, it's like, okay, now you get two electives. Do you want to study hall? Like, no, I want band.
Band.
I want double band. I was like, I'll do a language. Okay, now you get one elective. It was band. And then you get to college. Like, what do you want to do? Where do you want to major? And it's like, I don't have a choice. I got to major in music. Like, I just never made a choice ever. The
Yes.
choice was always there. And I loved every second of it.
Right.
Yeah, I'm just band kid. Started my career as a music teacher, professional trumpet player. I was always going to be a professional trumpet player, and it was always great. And then you realize nobody needs trumpet at 9:30 a.m. on a Tuesday. It's
Fair
not
enough.
really like I need some trumpeting then. So you can do a college job, you can do a teaching job, you can gig. So taught school, gigged, and just loved it. Then you get a little older and you look for something else, and so you realize that I started getting into education a lot. I really like teaching. So I went back into another master's in education leadership, got involved in advocacy. Music technology was a thing, like in your 20s and you think you have it figured out in your teens, but then you get in your 20s and like everything's coming together and you have your own money and you can spend it and you're like,
So
it
great.
all that was me, like, everything's swirling around late 20s, early 30s. I'm like, "Oh, there's music, there's performing, there's teaching, there's all this new technology." I started the first music tech program in Louisiana. We're the
Oh, wow.
first one to use like, "Hey, we have iPads, it's 2010, these things exist. Let's teach GarageBand classes using iPads, and let's get kids creating music with tools that we couldn't have in school 5 years before or even 2 years
Right.
before." Online technology, is when the internet got powerful enough. You had like NoteFlight, you could do online music notation. In 2008, you can just create an account and compose music. So anyway, I was like technology and advocacy and education administration and music. And I was like, how do all these come together? And so got a job in the music industry. I started an education division for an audio company and combined technology and education in my passions. Went to my first NAMM show. Mind was blown away at the industry. And then it's been a fast ride. That was 12 years ago. And to
Wow.
think here I am today is kind of crazy, but fun.
It's pretty incredible.
Been a
That is
ride.
a I was gonna say that is a ride, but I think it's there's a common thread in each person that I get to interview, and that in their story, and that is that it all started with the love of music, and that has taken us all to these really incredible places, and so I love that. That's incredible. Well, we're so glad to have you with us today. To start off, for all of the newcomers out there, why don't you explain exactly what NAMM is and the goal of it?
Yeah, absolutely. So NAMM is the National Association of Music Merchants. We are the world's largest nonprofit association for the music products industry. So, like as a nonprofit C6 membership association, we first and foremost, our mission is to strengthen the music products industry and promote the pleasures and benefits of making music. And we work with and represent any company who makes, manufactures, sells, distributes musical products. We also expand into individual members, those who educate, use, work with musical products as part of their profession that might not necessarily work for a member company. So we've
Right.
added that individual component. but we are the and quite frankly, the global organization is 50% of our members are overseas, but all do business in the United States, of course. And that's really what we are. Our job, and this is where it's really cool if you think about it. Like when I explain to non-music people, like, hey, what do you do? It's like,
Mhm.
well, our job is to think about how to help make the lives better of every company and person who works every day to make, manufacture, or sell musical products.
Mhm.
How do you do that? Well, you host the world's largest global music products trade show.
Yep.
You bring everyone together every year, inspiration, education, networking, exhibits, new products. Like you create the best experience in the world for the entire industry, kicking the year off. You spend your entire year providing member services around compliance, education advocacy, business compliance, policy. You go to DC, you lobby on behalf of policies that could affect our industry, that could help. You prevent policies that could hurt your industry. You provide education, you provide research, you provide data. So we do a lot of member services around that area. And the biggest thing we do that we're most proud of is everything we do supports the NAMM Foundation, which is a separate, but I sit as president of the NAMM Foundation as well, and that's the charitable arm of NAMM. And so everything we generate on the C6 business side goes to the NAMM Foundation, along with additional donations from members and companies and people outside the industry. And the NAMM Foundation has a very lofty goal of creating more music makers globally. And we do that
Love
through
that.
grants, we do that awards, we do that through scholarships to, get more people to the NAMM show and help that career trajectory. So it's a really amazing opportunity to help companies be stronger, gather them together. So it's so funny. You're catching me now, and like our fiscal year is October 1. So you're catching me
Mhm.
like right in like between strategic planning, do the interview, go back to strategic planning. One thing we're really thinking about right now is we gather the industry, we serve our members, and we grow the industry. And we do that through the foundation and the NAM show and all of our member services.
I love this so much. All of our listeners, obviously, we're going to have some of them that have been to NAMM or are at least very familiar with the show and the foundation in general. But for anybody going to NAMM for the first time, what would you say is step one? How do you get yourself involved in everything that NAMM has to offer? That's a large question, but I would
Yes.
love to know.
Okay, NAMM 101, 'cause it's funny, after attending the NAMM show for 12 years as an attendee, and that includes summer NAMMs too, so
Okay.
15, 16 NAMMs. Okay, step 1 is 2 weeks before, get your steps in. Because if you're not someone that walks 15,000 steps a day, you're gonna be in for a rude awakening. You gotta get that cardio up. You're gonna be running around. It's too big and there's too many people to see. So start alternating your shoes. Get your shoe game on because you're gonna do a lot of walking, a lot of talking. That's step one.
Fair enough.
It's a huge, there's, 70,000 plus people that will attend the NAMM show in January. And, how do you connect? How do you find the right person? One of the things that's going to be really valuable is get registered and get in the app right away. It used to be you'd have to like text, call, set up meetings, write them down in books. Today we have so much technology that allows people to connect. So the NAMM Show app that'll be released on all the, Google, iTunes, everything else we're putting the schedule out earlier. We're putting out more networking opportunities, connecting with exhibitors. So as early as even next month, in September, when the map will show up, you'll see the exhibitor map, the first version of it, because it grows and grows all the way to the show, and
Right.
then you'll be able to connect with companies. You'll be able to connect with other attendees, build out your education schedule, make a plan because it's a lot. And just know that the first NAMM show, when someone attends the first NAMM show, it's like everything else. You're a 5-year-old going to Disney World the first time. You're
Yeah.
gonna come back being like, okay, and okay, next year I'm gonna go to Epcot, I'm gonna forget to next year I'm gonna go to Universal. Okay, next year I'm gonna hit these rides. Like you'll start to learn over time how to make it your own and where your
Yeah.
places are. But the first year, you're gonna be a 5-year-old at Disney World and you're not gonna be able to keep up.
I
And that's
love
the
this.
beauty of it. So it's
Mhm.
exciting. So I always say make your plan, like really, really make your plan, but also know that you will leave with connections and ideas and inspiration and opportunities that you never knew existed before. So have a plan, but recognize and make space in your plan for the opportunities that you didn't plan for, because that's the value of the NAMM show.
I love this. I started my career in the music industry first as a front of house tech, and I did that for 7 years. So, as a tech nerd at heart, I love the whole idea of it. And I could not agree more with the sentiment of it's like going to Disney World for the first time when you're 5. It is all so exciting, and there's so much to take in. So, you've got the NAMM show obviously in January, but then you have another Summer NAMM, which is hosted in Nashville, correct?
Yeah, that's evolving. Yeah, so we used to do 2 shows. So, yeah, this is now you're getting into the before times. There's kind of the pre-pandemic and the
Okay.
post-pandemic, maybe
Right.
maybe a decade from now or a century from now, someone will have tell time like PD and post-pandemic or something like that. But,
Probably will.
um, yeah, we used to have 2 shows a year. I mean, our industry's evolved a lot. So, the short answer is we've evolved into another event called NAMM Next that we launched in 2024. We have been in Nashville, and we actually did one in Europe this past June. So just a couple months ago, we did NAMM Next Europe. We do have plans for more U.S. and international events. So before the pandemic, there was Music Russia, there was Music China, there's Music Messe Russia, there was
Mhm.
Music China, there was Music Messe Frankfurt. There were 2 NAMM shows a year. So I actually had 5 trade shows.
Wow.
The evolution. Now there's NAMM is the global show. The other ones have dissolved, and Music China is still around. Music China is very much a domestic show. There's
Mhm.
some international exhibitors, but it's really about doing business in China, and so there's whereas NAMM is about doing business globally. And so we have a great partnership with Music China. We work a lot with them, because we have a vested interest in supporting our members that are based in China, and we
Right.
have a lot of folks from China exhibit the NAMM show. So we collaborate. So we're in a different world now, and so
Right.
we recognize that like the need for a trade show is definitely about products, definitely about meeting face to face, but it's so much more than that.
Mhm.
So our secondary event outside the NAMM show now is called NAMM Next, and that gives us that's something very new. It's a brand that allows us to gather the industry in smaller local scales and to help companies based on the needs of the day. So the next, NXT, NEXT brand is, other areas use that as a very forward thinking different type vibe, and that's
Right.
what the NAMM Next Brid vibe is. So in 2024, we did an event in Nashville that was leadership focused, and it was basically what's next. We just made it through a pandemic.
Mhm.
We've been in the weeds and kind of survival land. Now we can step up. CEOs, leaders of companies, bring in big speakers from outside the industry. Where do we see the big trends the next 10 years? Because we have to kind
Mhm.
of get out of the survival mode and get into long-term mode again.
Right.
That's what was successful in 24. In 25, we had planned the event, and the tariff news, the
Mm.
terrific, April, as we like to call it, happened, and that had a really big effect on all industries. And
Mhm.
so we pivoted and we decided to offer NAM Next as a economic outlook, a global trade policy outlook. No
Mhm.
surprise why we did that one,
Mhm.
and leading through disruption, because at the time our industry needed to lead through disruption, understand global trade, and understand economic outlook. And so we
Right.
pivoted and we actually offered that to every NAM member digitally, because at the time there were travel cuts and expense
Right.
freezes around uncertainty. And so but we also did a NAM Next event in Europe, which was really cool. And
Oh,
Europe
wow.
did something completely different. You have different countries, you have different languages, you have different supply chains and needs. And Europe really, wanted to come together and kind of talk about cooperation amongst distributors, manufacturers, and retailers, and how economic factors in Europe, specifically the energy crisis and declining population and increasing immigration from emerging countries affects consumer behavior. Like we identify what our industry needs in a particular region, and the Europe event was very successful. So we kind of have this new thing on our hands, like this new
Yeah.
toy. It's like NAM Next. We can go in and look at and hotspot in our industry of like what's the biggest need between the NAM shows, and
Mhm.
we can go in and say, all right, we're going to craft an event based on a need of our members that could be local, and local could be a continent.
Mhm.
It could be a city. So
Right.
it's pretty cool. We're excited
Yeah,
about it.
I
I
love
obviously
it.
light up when I talk about it. So
Yeah, I love this. Well, I mean, as I think we're all aware, this industry, our music industry, our beloved music industry, changes just about every 5 minutes at this point. And so
yes.
we all have to continue to adapt and learn what the newest thing is, and how do we take the past and bring it into the present, and how do we apply, what the future of this is to what's happening right now. And so I think that's a perfect example of that. One of the next questions I have for you, kind of shifting more on the technology side of things, is what new technologies do you think are making the biggest impact on the music business right now?
Yeah, that's a really, really good one. I mean, NAMM's always been about innovation and technology. I mean, that's the funnest part of our show is seeing what products get to announce. Now we do a lot of product promotion, so we get embargoed press releases. And so the hardest part about the NAMM show for our staff is, I mean, we keep it very confidential. We never divulge, but like knowing what cool things are going to be launched is really exciting.
Oh, of
So
course.
trends we're seeing right now on technology, obviously there's this whole AI thing, and AI is not new. I mean, it kind of goes back to my history of, I remember when, GarageBand came out and you can mix on an iPad. And I worked at PreSonus Audio, and
Right.
PreSonus was a leader in like mixing on an iPad, and even trying to get some of like, Studio One, digital audio workstation mixing on an iPad. And it was always like, oh, you'll never get the right mix. You know how audio people are.
Oh, yeah.
I used to teach audio, Sarah. You said you were front of house. I used to
Yes.
teach people how to be audio. And I said, the first thing you do when you get to a mixing board is you look at it, crack your knuckles, and say, who touched this last? The compressions are wrong. The freaking it's all adjusted. None of the gains are right. It's just all a mess. I can't believe you literally curse the last person that touched that board and say
Yes.
everything's wrong. Then
Then you
you
have a
tweak
clean slate
stuff.
to start.
Exactly. So that's the first lesson, right? But back to innovation. So AI is not new. You see that happening, but what I see happening now, whenever you have a new innovation, and, think about the plug-in area. I mean, I was just talking we just
Mhm.
had an event in our museum here in the building. We have a whole museum of making music, talking about the ARP synthesizers, and I met the
Mm.
person who literally made the ARP plugin, the ARP
Oh, wow.
VST in 2001 that's still used today. The idea of making a VST 24 years ago. But even that was something new. AI is the next iteration of something that everyone's gonna play with, and this could be
Mhm.
like auto-tune in the '80s, the Lin drum machine, like
Yep.
but the point I'm trying to make, and, obviously I'm a student of the industry because I love it so much.
Oh,
What AI is doing, if you look back at some of these other points, whether it's the drum machine in the '80s or auto-tune or any of these other innovations, synthesizers, and then is that, it's causing people to, like, wildly experiment. So, we're in the phase of, "I have a new toy, let me, like, experiment in a very" and I say reckless in an exciting way, because 'cause I'm a big, like, "Let's experiment, let's do it," like, a very, like, reckless, free sandbox of experimentation, and so that's what we're seeing with AI. I wonder if it can do that. I wonder if could it just make a whole song for me? Oh, can
right.
I just see if I could copy the master of one mix and put it on another? Oh, can I see if I can make a tool and everything in between. And that experimental phase, just like you get a lot of bad ideas, but you get a lot of good
Of course.
ideas, but
Mhm.
you get a bad idea that sparks something that ends up being a good idea.
Exactly.
Um, and we see a lot of this. I mean, we've had technology affecting, even from like live sound. I remember the days when PreSonus got in the speaker game and was first in the DSP. It's like, oh, you have proprietary DSP in your speaker? Oh my God, so do I. Like, okay, like that's that,
That's
but you
true.
had that time with like,
Right.
oh wait, so like we can actually tune speakers dynamically from an iPad in the room. That's
Mhm.
that's amazing. That
Right.
set off a whole bunch of innovation in that market. So the technology right now, and like you said, it's moving faster than ever. The innovation's incredible.
Mhm.
And again, this is like my personal belief from what I've seen of what's launched at the NAMM show and what's hit and what's coming back and way people are tweaking. There's two things that are happening simultaneously. I don't think they're connected, but I'm using them in the same sentence, so they have to be in some way.
Right.
One trend is wild experimentation with new technology. We're trying everything. People are like loving some stuff. Everyone's very emotional and has lots of opinions about how it's used and when it's used
Yes.
philosophically, musically. But that's that's part of the phase. That's when whatever's gonna rise out of that, the 2 or 3 things that are gonna be lasting forever out of the 100 experiments, we'll
Mhm.
see. But we're in that kind of messy phase, which is driving a lot of innovation and driving a lot of emotions,
Right.
which is part of the creative process. So
Mhm.
you see that. Um, and then there's also this like parallel path that's like, let's throw back. Like modular synths are coming back.
Right.
Records are coming back.
Mhm.
We're seeing digital throwback products of products from the sounds of the 80s and 70s are coming. Like we're remaking those. There's a resurgence of that as well. So like
Yes.
this like wild experimentation for the unknown future with this like really high demand and desire for the comforts of like what we know using modern technology.
Right, absolutely. Well, you've given creatives a new toy, so obviously that's just what happens. It's part of it is the wild experimental phase, but I think it also anytime you bring in a new technology or like you said a new toy to a bunch of creatives, not only do we look for new ways to use it, it tends to make us look to the past a little bit and say, okay, what have we done and how can we apply that to this, which has caused the resurgence of music that, is from the 80s and 90s and even 60s and 70s. And what did we do then, and how can we use this new technology to do that again? And so I think it's a really exciting time personally, and I'm with you. I think it's a lot of fun, and people do have a lot of mixed emotions about it, but that's just all part of the process. I think we're going to get nothing but great things out of it.
I agree. I actually love that's I mean, again, like we see incredible innovation. It all kind of like bubbles up around the NAMM show. And the cool thing about the evolution of trade shows and where we are today is, you used the only way you could launch a product was show up at the NAMM show, have everyone fly in or drive in. In fact, I mean, NAMM show, I mean, we've been around since 1901. The first show
Mhm.
was 1902. So there
It's
was a
incredible.
time when you weren't driving in, you were riding horse carriages in, and I think that's a really when we were a piano dealer association, because you wanted to hear music, you needed sheet music and a piano, and so we've seen this evolution.
Right.
Um, and you look at other industries like, AI and music, but it's gotta be hard living through it. We can look at the past and say, "Look at the automotive industry.
Mhm.
Look at what cars can do today." Like, that's so incredible. I bet there was a time in the 1920s where there was a horse training union that was, like, adamant about losing their jobs.
Yes, of
That
course.
was really up in arms about, "We're never gonna survive. We have to boycott." Like,
Right.
um, like, that's just a fact of the matter is. And so there's some element of that happening with AI, and yes, that's just part of evolution, and, like, you look at it. So 5 years from now, we'll see where this is going. Living through it's a little uncertain and hard, but
Of
that's
course.
where, one of the things about being NAMM is our job is to really, and back to strengthen the industry, we think about the long-term preservation of an industry, about
Mhm.
people looking at the music products industry as a driver, as a leader, as a career path. And we think in decades
Mhm.
and quite frankly, centuries. We're doing a big 125-year celebration in 2026 because
Oh, wow.
obviously it's our we think long term. We recognize that the companies we serve might be thinking like year to year or quarter to
Mhm.
quarter or
Mhm.
sometimes month to month. And our job is to support them, help them, make sure the circumstances around them, whether it's policy or trade, anything else, are beneficial for our industry as much as we can. But also, we have to make sure that our industry grows over decades. And that does mean that there was a time in the '70s where you'd walk into a shopping mall. And for those of you listening, a shopping mall is where people used to go and have all the stores in one place to shop. Because I mean,
Yes.
that's even hilarious. Like, how many shopping malls still
Yeah.
exist?
It's
But
like a real life Amazon.
yeah, oh yeah, exactly. It's an in-person Amazon. It's like you can go and there's like physical places for all the quote. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
Amazon stores on 3 levels with like pretzels everywhere.
It was
Um,
fantastic.
Yeah, yeah, it's a great place to hang. It's where you can drop teenagers off for free and come pick them up at 10 p.m. and know that at least they're self-contained. At least they tell you they are, because there were
Right.
no cell phones, but there were pay phones.
Yes.
But there was a time when our industry, you had an home organ store in every shopping mall. and that was driving, like, double digits of our entire industry were home organs sold in shopping malls.
Right. Absolutely.
Nobody there we have some in our museum.
Oh, that's incredible. Yeah, that's it's such a thing of the past, at least for the physical stores now, that anybody that was born after the '90s probably has no idea what we're talking about here.
It's incredible, it's funny, I just saw but we see this, like, history doesn't repeat itself, but it rhymes. And some you see, I just got a video from a friend, partner in the industry that just was in a Walmart in Franklin, Tennessee, that saw an entire innovation studio. There was like Focusrite and some other name. There's a whole nonprofit that put it together in partnership with
Oh,
some
nice.
name. And like, you walk in the Walmart and there's like 6 studios, an incredible like innovation studio space that's empowering students and professionals to make and create music as part of the community. I'm like,
That's
it's the
incredible.
same concept. It's a
It
place
is.
that people come, so let's take advantage of the foot traffic and inspire them to create music.
Absolutely. Well, something that I want to touch on is obviously, as the CEO of NAMM, you're a very forward-thinking leader. We constantly embracing new technologies and things like that. Not every leader is that way, or maybe they're trying to be that way. What advice would you give to other leaders of how you stay relevant in this constant moving industry?
Yeah, that's a really good one. And I think for me, because I come from the for-profit side, my previous job was to innovate, be ahead of the competition, have the next best feature, and then stay ahead. And you can probably tell I just have been wired to like think about, ooh, what's next for a long time.
Right.
Um, So I think there's always that like relevancy. The challenge I have for I'll speak for myself when someone is very innovative and you look at something in your brain, the first thing you think about is like, how does it get better? How does it increase? In my particular role now, one thing that I think about a lot is I can't get too far ahead of our industry because we are a nonprofit. At the end of the day, our job is to serve our membership and we're governed by a board of our members and so I think as a leader, I recognize that I need to be innovative to inspire innovation. But where I lead the organization and even where I lead the industry, I need to make sure that where the industry is going and where the company's going is along with everyone
Hmm.
and not stay ahead.
Right.
Sometimes, you walking 10 steps ahead of someone doesn't make them walk faster.
Right.
Raising the bar higher doesn't make them jump higher. Um, so separating when you're talking about innovation and exciting things from an inspirational thought leadership thing, from then when you're actually on the ground, what are we doing strategically this year and how are we going to measure it? Making sure you don't get those 2 confused, because you
Right.
can you can drag an organization unwillingly too far in the wrong direction accidentally if you don't really know the difference between those 2.
Absolutely. So, if say our listeners have been to NAM before, maybe they've been a few times, and they have been to the main original show, what's different in 2026? What's going to be different about the 2026 show?
Yeah, so what you'll see in 26, and we saw a glimpse of this in 25, you see a 5-day event now. So NAM was always Thursday through Sunday, and everything happened at the same time. Exhibits,
Mhm.
education. What we've realized, and again, having the data, it's so good to be able to analyze data now. We've noticed when different communities show up. Like for example, we have a strong house of worship. On a Sunday morning, there's more music made in this country than there is on Saturday nights.
Right.
And that's another and so understanding that house of worship community really comes to NAM on a few-day arc. The closer it
Mhm.
gets to Sunday, the more they have to get ready. Usually it's Wednesday night choir and Wednesday night church rehearsals. Wednesday nights, I think every church in the world got together and said, "All right, Wednesday nights we're having choir rehearsal." Great.
Yes.
So like Thursday, Friday, we're like packed in house of as one example. We look at when audio engineers show up kind of later in the week. Retailers, buyers are always there early in the week. So
Hmm.
one thing we've done and what you'll see is you'll see a 5-day event, but you'll see it catered around the arcs of the communities. Because we don't think of NAM as 70,000 people. We
Hmm.
think of it as 70 1,000 person communities. And so as an attendee, wherever you fit in that community, maybe you're a bedroom producer, maybe you're a high endorsed artist, maybe a professional touring artist, you can be a backline company, you could be a retail store. Whoever you are, you should see and feel and experience all the content you need at the arc of what you expect to have it. And we've
Mhm.
really worked hard at, just looking at, where the pathways are, where people are going and inspiring that. So we'll see a lot more tailored education. We're going to be announcing Tuesday and Wednesday long form summits. We're putting on either a half day or full day summit for each target audience so they have an opportunity to come and really get intense long form training with their peers.
Oh, wow.
This will be a new concept. These are sort of paid summits. The fee just covers the meal because we can't expect you to stay half day and then run out to find something. So we're just basically
Right.
serving breakfast or lunch or both if it's a full day. So it's that type of long form. We're also bringing in some really high level speakers in addition to the like sessions on the hour, every hour type a la carte approach. So you'll see that on education. Targeted networking is everywhere. We're really making sure the schedule shows when there's a reception, whether it's the Latin American reception or it's the audio engineers reception or the new
Mhm.
backline bash. Oops, I let it out that we're doing for the backline community. Like we want everyone to be able to see like, oh, there's a gathering for my community. Let me put that on there because
Mhm.
we know people network, but we want to give people space to find when their community's gathering.
Right.
Pro audio pool party is another one. We have all of these targeted areas. The exhibit hall just as packed as last year. Companies are super excited. Lots of new product innovations coming out. Some big anniversaries on the industry. So you'll see all of those at the NAMM show as far as like how you'll look at the 5 days. The other area that's just been growing so fast is folks like you, Sarah. It's influencers, storytellers, content creators. That audience is growing rapidly. And one thing we've
Yeah.
realized is, there's only 70 some thousand people that can attend the NAMM show.
Right.
Uh, but there's millions, I mean, millions across the world that tune in. And they
Right.
tune in through a 4-inch screen. They're
Mhm.
tuning in through Instagram, TikTok, all those channels, and so we have this incredible army of influencers, curated influencers, a a huge growing influencer lounge, even bigger than last year, where content creators can create authentic content to their brand,
Mhm.
and they can go in a dedicated room, plug in, and get it out immediately. We have more content studios, podcast studios, that folks can rent out at certain times, can reserve because NAMM needs to be a brand content creation platform, not
Right.
just for the people there, for the people outside. So I'll give you some staggering numbers. In 2023, we've always had content creators, but the content creator grew extensively during COVID
Right.
because we're all at home. What are you going to do?
Right.
Buy some gear and start talking to the world, right?
Mhm.
In 2023, we had about 9.4, I think is the number, million views on content created at the NAMM show.
Wow.
And this is measured through like tagged hashtag NAMM through ways we can measure it.
Right.
In 2024, we had a creator lounge. Did a big creator event. We actively, like I said, there's something here. We invited a lot of folks. We threw them a party. We cultivated the network. We had a lot of interviews. What do you need? How can we do this? In 2024, that 9 went to like just around 22 million views of content.
Wow.
In 2025, that jumped to over 39 million views.
Goodness.
So we see this as an area like if the NAMM show can be the place where a brand shows up to exhibit their products
Mhm.
and has their retailers and buyers and distributors and partners and artists and educators from 125 countries on site and can get exposure to over 40 million, potential viewers around the world.
Yep.
Like it's a pretty cool experience.
Absolutely. Well, I think that's one of the wonderful things about technology. We talked about AI and things like that, but at some point, social media and podcasting, and all of that, that was a new technology. And we're now seeing the benefits of this. We're seeing the benefits of not everybody's going to be able to physically come to this NAMM show. So now how do we reach out and support this community that maybe can't physically be here in person? And we're seeing this great technology be able to be used. So to watch that flourish is just another reason why NAMM is so important to our industry.
I beautifully said. And, one of the big questions that I think all trade shows had to answer, and certainly we did too, coming out of the pandemic, but even before that, because, the pandemic exposed a lot more problems than it actually created
Right.
or accelerated some.
Hmm.
Are you consumer or are you trade? Do you need a trade show? Do you need consumer? And we obviously would, and because we're a membership association, not a for-profit trade show, we have the benefit of going to our board and going to our members who are our companies saying, well, what do you want? And I,
Right.
I literally did that for 2 years. I flew all over the world, sat down with companies and said, hey, I have this crazy idea. If I could get like the entire industry together in one place at one time of year, like every manufacturer, distributor, retailer, buyer, and they all showed up in one place, what would you do with that?
Right.
And it's a different way of framing of like, what do you think the NAMM show's value is? But
Right.
you get a different answer when you ask a different question.
You do.
And so the question is, how do you get to the NAMM show? How do you get a badge to the NAMM show? One thing you'll see different this year is we finally really, I think, dialed it in is that the NAMM show, I mean, obviously first and foremost is membership association. It's people expect to see their retailers, their distributors, their suppliers, their manufacturers. There's a course, I call it like the supply chain relationship.
Hmm.
That core relationship is just as strong as it ever has. Now,
Right.
what's outside of that? Products are only as good as the artist who's holding them, right? So you get
Right.
artists, influencers, educators, educators who obviously teach. So like you have this next of like who's using the products and who's demonstrating and adding value, and then who's giving feedback on the products. Because a lot of people exhibit because they just want to learn about their products.
Right.
And then like what's that outer circle? Is NAMM quote unquote consumer? And the answer is well, no, you can't buy it at the NAMM show. You can't walk up and say, I want that guitar. Like that's
Right.
not the policy. Um and but what happens is that through these influencers, the story of that new product is told to 40 million plus or 40 million views around the world. And that's when it gets
Yeah.
really exciting. So we're introducing a new concept this year of like, how do you get to the NAM show? Because it used to be anyone could really invite anyone. And if you knew someone well enough, you'd get in.
Right.
So we're really working better to say, we want more attendees. We can take more attendees. It's not a capacity issue, it's a quality issue.
Hmm.
If the NAMM show is 120,000 people or 80,000 people or 50, whatever the number is, if it's not the quality, the
Hmm.
number is just a headline.
Right.
So we're introducing a new concept during registration this year called the qualified attendee. And this affects who exhibitors are allowed to invite, et cetera, et cetera. So exhibitors, retailers, members get to invite folks as part of their benefit. And they can invite employees of their company, they can invite their artists, they can invite media, they can invite, you know, other buyers. They can, they have the, but they also have this thing called qualified attendee. And we've actually defined that. And it
Hmm.
always was like Amy Nammer knows that it's the yellow badge. But we've now defined a qualified attendee is defined as this. If you go to NAMM.org/registration, it's all in black and white right now. It is the educator, it is the front of house engineer, it's the student, it's the the artist producer, it's the house of worship, it's the corporate buyer. We have literally roles defined and they'll be on the badge. So
Hmm.
this idea of like, I'm a qualified attendee and you can be qualified by the person who invites you. You can go to NAMM.org and create a profile and then give us your role and we will qualify you. Um, and that sort of lets us really understand that like on the ground, industry qualified value add attendees
Hmm.
telling the story to 40 million plus people around the world.
Right.
So you'll see those type of new badge names. And so that's where it all comes from is getting the quality right.
That's fantastic. Well, all it's going to do is help strengthen the community that you guys are already building, and put the right people with the right people so that we can continue to make more music and everything else.
And from a business sense, since this is a business insider podcast, I'll give you the
Yes.
insider information. It's no secret that we're using this information to provide a better service. I mean, yeah, so we're a nonprofit, but I mean, everything's business. You have customers. We're a service provider.
Right.
And how do we provide a better service? When we look at someone at the NAM show, it's like, well, how'd you get a badge? Oh, because my buddy Bob invited me.
Hmm.
Cool. You're Bob's buddy. No, why are you at the NAMM show? I'm a qualified attendee. I'm a producer working as a part-time engineer, aspiring to look for a live touring gig. That's we're now capturing that. And
Right.
we can now see what that person, who they're connecting with, what who they're visiting on the app, and all this data lets us know, are we getting it right?
Right.
Because when we spend all year, I mean, a NAMM show takes 18 months. So we're like already well into 2027. And
Right.
so when companies say, hey, it's not just like we sell you a space, here's a 20 by 30, now go buy your carpet.
Mhm.
We think a lot about service. We work with our companies all year, not just talking about space. We have an entire business development department that literally is assigned to work with the company and understand their kind of 360 needs. And so it's like, well, who do you want to see at the NAMM show? We consult on how to design booths.
Mm.
What do you want? Do you want more influencers to come? Well, you need this type of vibe. Do you want more dedicated retail? Okay, this is the type of year you need to have specific meetings with your buyers because you're interested in a very specific product. Okay, well, we can work with you on crafting a private meeting space with some product thing. Like we literally work with companies all the time to do this. But what we need to know is, did the right people show up to the booth? And when
Right.
it's 40,000 Bob buddies, we can't do that. So we're
Yes.
investing heavily in technology, data, to use that year round to make sure that we're getting this experience right. We have 5 days a year to get this right, and the weight on our shoulders is, you know, to be slightly dramatic, but also true. But yes, there's dramatic. The weight of the success of the industry for that year is really on the success those companies have in January at the NAMM show as the springboard to kick off that year. We
Mhm.
think about that all the time. We have to deliver this amazing experience. People are buying square footage, but they're not. They're buying uh, access to attendees who's going to accelerate their business for that year. And so we can't
Exactly.
deliver that unless we have data. So
I love this. It sounds like 2026 is going to be an incredible show. I can't wait. I'm hoping to be able to attend this year. And so that is all so exciting. Before we wrap this up, why don't you go ahead and give people the details, if you can, of when is the show? Obviously, where is it for anybody that has never been, kind of what they need to know going into it.
absolutely. NAMM Show is in Anaheim, California. That's just a little bit south of Los Angeles. It'll be our 50th year hosting a show in Anaheim, California, 125-year celebration of
It's
NAMM.
amazing.
So it will be January 20 through 25 in 2026. Registration will open September 10th. You can go to namm.org and get all the information. And you'll see how to register, all of that. So hope to see you all at the NAMM show in January 20 through 25, Anaheim, California.
That's amazing. Well, John, thank you so much for coming on today and sharing not only your wisdom, but your excitement for our industry. It's always fun to see the passion that our leaders in this industry have for the music. And that's why we all got into this. So it has been a pleasure interviewing you today, and I hope to meet you in person at NAMM this year.
Yep, I'll see you at NAMM. Thank you, Sarah. Thank you for everyone for listening. This was super fun. See you at
Thank you
NAMM.
so much. All right.